Well, hello, everybody. This is a podcast live stream for the diehards. I'm Andrew Dukowitz from Zone Coverage. Andrew Carlson from Canis Hoopus is with us. It's the Missing Wolves post-game live stream podcast thing. Andrew, how's it going, man?
It's good, man. And I give a shout out to anybody who's jumped in. I just put this out on the Twitter sphere, but like you're a real sicko if you watch tonight. You're a real sicko if you're jumping in here. A lot of respect for that because there are plenty of things to watch, but I mean, if you're a real sicko, it was probably pretty entertaining. But that's probably the long and the short of that.
Yeah, I mean it score looks closer than it was at times. 132-120 loss to the Magic. The Wolves, I think, acknowledged earlier this morning that they are just going to, like, they would have had to win out. Houston would have had to lose a game. Like, they're the 6th seed. And I think they made a very blatant punt on the season of, like, let's just get healthy. Ant is out. Rudy takes a day off. Julius is off. Mike, God bless him, finally got a night off. I mean, I guess, Andrew, from your point of view, like when you saw like the injury list and starting lineups come out, what was your first thought?
Unsurprising, especially with the result that came out of Phoenix last night. It looks like the Rockets are going to be kind of getting a free pass here in the first round against the Lakers, which is kind of too bad. But I mean, as soon as that result came in, granted, I'm sure a couple people in the Wolves organization had to stay up till probably 2:00 in the morning Eastern time to see that come in. As soon as that happened, you could probably take a guess that they're probably not going to be, for sure, not playing a lot of minutes tonight. Like Io has been playing a lot of minutes. He's been playing really hard too over the last few games. He's also been nursing some calf soreness. Like that was a pretty easy one to see coming as well. That this was probably going to be a back-to-back that probably half the roster gets off. And honestly, I know that Ant they're trying to get Ant back for at least one game here for the rest of the season. I would be hard pressed to see like a 35-minute game from Julius Randle here down the stretch. I'd be hard pressed to see 35 minutes from Ayo Dosunmu. Like we might see him touch 30 here, but I would imagine those minutes are going to be pretty measured. And also too, like, get a look at what you have at the end of the bench, right? You're not going to be able to do that for the rest of the year. It's very, I mean, if Joan Beringer is in a playoff game, like there are major problems. So anyway, you might as well, like if you're in a back-to-back in Orlando, like give TJ some extended run. You saw some good stuff from him. Give Joan some extended run, see what you have there. Bones, seeing what he can do, kind of point guarding the offense and being a true kind of 1B when he's on the floor. What does that look like? So just I completely understand the philosophy behind the Notes app injury report tonight.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys have been just dealing with stuff. Like I think Nas is the prime example, who played tonight, didn't play a ton of minutes, but played tonight. And it's like anyone with eyes can see he's dealing with this shoulder thing. Like just because he's not on the injury list doesn't mean like he's not dealing with something. Again, it almost cemented my thought that it's just like some sort of weird separated shoulder issue that he's dealing with, because like him playing tonight kind of proves that he's not going to make it worse. But I'll be honest, like I'd be surprised if any more players play against Houston. Like Julius is sat a game now. He doesn't need that 82 game thing that I think was kind of important to him. Wouldn't be surprised if he sits again. Rudy, I wouldn't be surprised if he sits out another game. I mean, Jaden looked good enough tonight where maybe they feel confident, like, all right, Jaden, like you can take Houston off and we'll get you back in for the Pelicans just to get right. But I mean, what are your expectations for Houston though? Are you kind of on the same page?
It's hard to say. I mean, is Anthony Edwards playing or is he not? I mean, that's I think kind of the big question to be answered. If he ends up playing on Friday night, I would imagine they try and get everybody out there just to kind of get everybody assimilated. And honestly, Sunday too. I mean, if Ant is good to go for both of those games, if I'm the Wolves, I play everybody at least for a short stretch. I mean, I think that if your number one player that is going to be your focal point and your franchise player and a high usage rate in the playoffs and someone who hasn't played in a couple weeks in a sustained fashion, I do think you need to at least get a couple games a run out of a couple different lineup combinations and just kind of get everybody back, because there's no question we've seen Ant come back from injuries before. It's clunky. It
Yeah.
just is. And so that's going to be pretty important. If he's not ready to go on Friday, I maybe play whoever feels good. Like the guys who are out for rest tonight, like Julius and Rudy, like maybe we see them against Houston on Friday just to get a little bit of tread on the tires. And then, I mean, they do have that whole week off before the playoffs. So it's not necessarily something where if you're not nursing anything, you might as well play. But again, like if you're an Io, like I'll keep using Io for an example. You've battled some calf soreness here for the last couple weeks. You didn't play tonight because of that. Maybe you just play like one of those two.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that the Anthony Edwards part is a really good point, because I think that I wasn't even thinking about it that way. You're spot on. Like if Anthony Edwards is playing, like you just got to get him minutes with the rest of the quote unquote guys, just maybe they only play the first half against Houston. Maybe they go like 25 minutes, but like you're right on that one. Like if Ant is good to go, you kind of got to get him just back in the fold. But yeah, it's a really weird position the Wolves find themselves in, because Houston's going to be battling for I mean, presumably they're going to be trying to get the 4 seed, or, rip that home court advantage away from the Lakers. And I mean, the Pelicans don't have a ton to play for, but that's going to be a game where KG's in the building. Like I assume everyone in that, like whether you're on the Pelicans or the Wolves, is going to be kind of hyped for that one. Yeah, it's a really weird situation. It's almost like it's almost like they've clinched the 1 seed, but it's the 6 seed, which I don't know. What are your thoughts on this season ending up as a 6 seed after everything's said and done?
it's weird, but I just real quick before we dive into that, it's like the jumper's knee thing that Ant's been going that he's been going through it. People have kind of compared it to what Steph had been going through for a while. I don't know if it's quite that bad. But if I remember correctly, like Ant had going through the same thing. Was it 2 years ago? It was 23-24 where he had a little bit. It was the jumper's knee. It was the same exact injury.
So it was 2 years ago. Ant was dealing with jumper's knee, which is more of like a cartilage type issue that's like from hard impact landing. This year he's dealing with, it's called runner's knee, which is just an overuse injury. Like the ligaments in the joints just been overused, which like Steph did have the same, like I think it's patellofemoral pain syndrome is the technical name for it. But like Steph did have the same injury, but Steph is also like 12 years older than Ant. So it's like, but it is kind of interesting that Ant has had 2 of these like overuse, chronic-y, weird injuries, because you don't get them by accident. Like you get them from like overdoing it essentially.
And at the same point in the season too, that's kind of left things in flux. Like he
Yeah.
still played through it a couple of years ago, but it definitely did not look the same from a ball movement usage perspective that we're used to seeing. So to your point where you're saying like, yeah, it's a really weird situation. It's kind of unprecedented because
Yeah.
a couple of years ago they didn't really have the runway to rest him a ton. Like he was just kind of playing through it because it couldn't get any worse. This is something where they were able to kind of rest him a little bit. He came back for 1 game, looked horrible, and we'll see what happens when he does inevitably come back. So yeah, I mean, to your point, it's a little unprecedented. And I mean, man, I'm looking at what Jaden McDaniels did tonight, and I'm looking at what Jaden McDaniels has done for the last couple weeks, and I'm sitting here saying, Anthony Edwards doesn't look like Anthony Edwards, that's a guy I'm looking at right away come game 1.
It's kind of wild, the evolution of Jaden McDaniels this season, because I think at the beginning of the season, I think like most of us in like the Wolves media sphere were in the same boat of like, if he can just shoot like 38% and get like 6 points off fast breaks, 38% from 3, maybe averages like 12 points again, but it's more efficient. I mean, he legitimately might be I know Julius has more responsibility, but he might be the like second best offensive player on this team now. Like just from a knockdown shooting standpoint and this weird, like off the dribble mid-range thing. Like, I don't know. Where are you sitting at with Jaden?
He very well could be. He very well could be. I mean, I'm specifically looking at that Houston game that he actually got hurt in. I
Yeah.
mean, the thing with him is he's just so hyper efficient at what he does. Like there's just no wasted movements to his game. Now, what happens if, let's do the hypothetical practice of take Julius out of the picture and some of the gravity and doubles that he brings, and like what does Jaden kind of become in that sort of setting? That remains to be seen. But I mean, man, like he sure looks ready to be that type of a guy. And again, like you go to the playoffs and you're gonna be facing a Denver team that, Julius and the front court's going to be kind of accounted for from the Wolves perspective. Like Aaron Gordon's a heck of a defender, Jokic and Rudy, like Rudy's a little bit like from a defensive standpoint, there's going to be, a lot of tie-ups there. Jaden's going to kind of be your X factor. Nas is going to kind of be your X factor in a series with Denver. And so previous seasons, Jaden may not have been ready to be. I mean, Jaden played great. Jaden's had really good playoff series.
Yeah.
But he wasn't ready to be like the breakout guy where you maybe average 25 points in a playoff series and arrive and kind of cement yourself. He's played well. He hasn't played great. So this would be a series where I look for that. Like the red carpet is rolled out for Jaden right now.
Yeah.
And he looked like he didn't miss any games tonight.
No, it honestly looked like he was just another Jaden game. Like he didn't need any warm up, nothing.
Even picked up a technical foul for hanging on the rim, and he's gotten by with the same exact rim hang so many times, and he finally got called for it. I've wondered live at the game, man, there's going to be a time there is going to come a day where he gets called for a tee on this because he just hangs on the rim.
Yep.
And even down to the rim hang, Jaden was completely back and finally got teed up for it.
He had a couple other like bench moments that I hope some people clip that were watching where he's just like spamming the emote while the ball's still in the air for TJ. And it's just like, man, that guy just, he is so unapologetically himself. And it's just like, it's awesome. Just awesome. I mean, we can get into the TJ and stuff a little bit later, but I do want to talk Denver because I think the more I've been diving into it the last like 3 days or so, like Denver really doesn't match up well against the Wolves. Like I think just in the same case where it's like, oh man, the Wolves are getting Denver. That's kind of a crappy scenario between Houston, LA, and Denver. I think it's kind of the same for Denver where it's like Minnesota's probably the worst team for them. I mean, we see it every year. Like Aaron Gordon can't really guard Ants. Christian Brown can't really guard Ant. Jamal Murray can't really guard anyone for the most part. And then it's like Cam Johnson. You mentioned the Jaden effect of it all. Like Cam Johnson's going to be on Jaden a ton. And Jaden's like 5 inches taller than him. Like, I don't know. There is a path where the Wolves take care of Denver and it's just easy for them, don't you think?
You raise a lot of good points. I actually kind of, frankly, I think the inverse on the actual if you were to rank the teams that the Wolves would have been eligible to match up with in the first round between Houston, Denver, LA, even before the Luka and Reeves injuries, I probably would have gone LA, Houston, Denver. I think at least on my end, I'm skeptical heading in that this team just has enough for Jokic in a 7-game series. That's ultimately my concern. When you had Cat on the roster and you were kind of doing the Twin Towers thing, you were able to do, and Aaron Gordon wasn't able to shoot the basketball. You were able to kind of do the Rudy Rove in the paint and Cat play off a little bit or Rudy play off a little bit and kind of sag off of Aaron Gordon. That's not the case anymore. And ultimately you're going to have a lot of Rudy isolation and essentially trying to turn Jokic into a scorer. Which, the ultimate X factor there is what does that unlock for Denver? Or are you able to essentially kind of keep it in one spot? Pack mentality, Kyle Anderson's secret weapon. It's an optimistic way of looking at it. That's an optimistic way of looking at it. I would love to see it. Frankly, I would love to see it. But that's just where I come from specifically. The other thing too, Pac Mentality brought up in another one of like, Turbo Twins thinks they can maybe outrun Denver in a series. That's really interesting because Indiana proved last year that you can actually play with pace consistently in a playoff
Yeah.
series. I don't know if the Wolves are going to be able to do that. Certainly, if there are a couple players that will do that, it's going to be Bones and Io, and that unlocks a lot of different things. But you raise a good point too, Andrew. Is like at the end of the day, the Nuggets still don't have an Ant matchup. It really comes down to how healthy Ant is going to be in this series.
Yeah.
Is he going to be a little bit hampered? Is he going to be fully healthy? That remains to be seen. If he's fully healthy, Denver has no one who can guard him. And really, these are the best types of playoff series because it's going to come down to out of Jokic and Anthony Edwards, who's the one that can kind of unlock things a little bit more for their team and ultimately take them to the second round.
It is. I do want to shout out like Pack Mentality's been in here, Cole, Farah, all in here after whatever we just watched tonight. Like you guys are like you guys are the MVPs.
Respect.
Like I don't know. I think it's really like if the Wolves embrace the pace and they embrace kind of the chaos that this season has been, and maybe Rudy's only playing 25 minutes a game and Julius is matched up a ton on Jokic, or Kyle gets thrown in there to make things weird. I mean, Nas has never been like, I should say everything's graded on a curve. Like Jokic gets his against everybody.
Good
Nas
point.
hasn't been the worst against Jokic. So like if the Wolves just kind of embrace that, go small, play with pace, like Denver doesn't really have anyone that can stop them. And then you're just going to see like 130 to 132 like final scores where it's just whoever's offense can get hot at the right time. Because I do hear you, like for all the problems that Denver has stopping the Wolves, like the Wolves don't really have that much either, like to stop Jokic. I mean, they can match up well against Murray. Like Cam Johnson's going to get probably like an Io to Sumo or Ant on him for most of the game. Like they're going to be able to guard the wing guys, but like Jokic is just so good.
Yeah, and that's just it. I mean, if there's one thing that you could maybe look at, like Denver doesn't shoot a lot of threes. Like they don't love to shoot the three ball. They do it, relatively well. I think they're a 40% team. So they are a pretty good 3-point shooting team. They just don't love to do it a lot. I mean, you look at what San Antonio was doing against them the other night. They were essentially letting Christian Brown shoot the ball whenever he wanted to. You kind of put it in the hands of like a Bruce Brown, see if he can shoot the ball. We'll see what happens if Peyton Watson's able to come back in that first round series. It looks like he might be able to. He restrained that hamstring. So ultimately, you're going to have to kind of see it again. Is it a Jokic thing, or are you just going to kind of let guys shoot? Like you're going to have to, if you want to get the ball out of Jokic's hands, if you want to bother him, wear him down a little bit, you're going to have to maybe leave one guy open. And the question is, who's that going to be? The Spurs had let Christian Brown do it, and ultimately that almost paid off for them. So that kind of is interesting. I think the other thing too, just from a pace perspective, is try and wear Jokic down. Those non-Jokic minutes are huge in a Denver series. Like you really have to cash those in. So it's going to be on Io, Bones, however much Bones plays, and the rest of the bench to really kind of make hay when Jokic is off the floor. And when he is on the floor, again, try and push the pace as much as you can to wear him down. Put him in pick and rolls as much as you can. Try and wear him down because it's a 7-game series and he's just not easy to contain in any sense of the word.
And that's at least where the Io trade, I think, has helped a little bit, which I mean, I'll step back and just say, like, I agree. It's going to be a 7-game series. Like, these two teams are like too good of rivals that the NBA needs a 7-game series. Conspiracy theories need a 7-game series. Like, it just needs to happen. But like they have, with Io coming in here, They now have Ant, Io, and Bones that can all just come off a screen and go right at kind of the heart of the defense and make those bigs kind of adjust a little bit more, which, I mean, last season you kind of saw it with Nikhil. He's more of like a go off the screen, kind of go around the baseline type of wiggle player. I don't know. I think the Wolves against Denver, it's going to be closer than the like regular season records are going to predict. Again, assuming Ant is healthy. If Ant is just not Ant, then the series is probably over pretty quick. But yeah, any last thoughts on the Denver side or Denver Wolves series side of it, or should we talk some TJ?
Not as much. I mean, I just, Abdi Roof, if I mispronounce your name, please roast me. But it's a good point with Murray, with the Murray and Jokic pick and roll, because it was giving San Antonio problems with Victor Wembanyama. And like when that's a thing, like you just know that that's a universal thing across the league. And it's obviously given the Wolves issues in the past. Jamal Murray has given the Wolves issues in the past in the playoffs. And they're just, they run it so seamlessly. The thing in a Denver series that I'm just going to be watching for is, how is that guarded? Are they going to blitz that? Are they going to double Jokic immediately? Like, are they going to kind of go back to their high wall thing and see if that works a little bit? I would imagine they don't play a full drop. I would imagine they probably try and force the ball out of one person's hands. So that's just kind of what I'm going to be looking for, is the chess game there between the Murray and Jokic two-man game, because it comes in so many different forms. It's dribble handoffs, it's pick and rolls, it's pass backs. There's just so many different things that they do there. And so that, I mean, one, it's going to be the decider of the series, but it's also going to be the chess game of adjustments and how that's done throughout.
It's also going to be interesting, like from the Wolves side of it, because 2 years ago, one of the big kind of X factors they had is like Mike and Nikhil are both some of the best like screen dodgers, shrink, going between Jokic and like the screen and the ball handler and kind of like cut it off. They don't really have anyone that can do that anymore. I mean, Mike can still do it and draw a charge once a game, but like if Mike's playing 30 minutes guarding Murray, like that's
you got issues.
Problem.
You got if Mike is playing in the, again, that's one of those things. If Mike is playing in the Denver series, it's not a good sign. Like if Johan is playing, not a good sign. TJ had a great game tonight. If he is playing, not a great sign. So I see what you're saying. I mean,
they're gonna have to kind of figure it out differently though, because Io doesn't really defend that way. Dante doesn't really defend that way. Ant and Jaden are both kind of like go under the screen and like use their burst to get back into it. It's again, like it's just going to be interesting to see how they figure it out, because I do think they're going to figure it out. It's just, does it take 6 games or does it take 2 games?
Completely. That's a great point. Those Mike illegal screen draws were a legitimate weapon in the playoffs. I mean, it's a great point. I mean, you raise a great point there. And to not have that, and like you said, Io, I mean, his size is an issue, but another great point with the Na screen navigation too. Another thing that they're going to be missing. Like Na gave Jamal Murray so many fits 2 years ago in the playoffs, and they're just going to have to figure it out. That's kind of where I go with, on paper, this team used to be a great matchup for Denver. Now with the changing personnel and Aaron Gordon now being able to shoot, and just the different versions of this roster that have been undertaken, I'm just not sure that's the case anymore. But I would imagine that it's going to be a 6-7 game series as they always are.
I think it's going to be a lot of offense. Like that's what my gut tells me, is at some point Elston Turner is just going to look at Finch and be like, I don't know what to do. Just start scoring. And then it goes from there. I'm going to run us over to a quick break. When we come back, let's talk some TJ. Let's talk some Johan. And then I don't know how much we need to get into Houston, but TJ and Johan, I do want to talk about, but first ads. Well, hello. Thank you, Livestream Andrew. This is Ad Read Andrew. And today we have Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, the presenting sponsor for the Missing Links podcast. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling strives to inspire people to follow their ideas, working with respect and understanding to create a quality, tailored result. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, located in Blaine and serving in the North Metro area, is here to help you with your building and remodeling needs. I can say personally, thanks to Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, I have a beautiful deck in my backyard and countless projects that I started, they finished. Get started on your new deck or remodel today by calling Isaac at 763-710-5686. And we're back with another ad read, this time for Pence Homes, the presenting sponsor of Hitting the Hardwood Network. From the best tools and technology to transparency throughout the entire process, Nate Pence and the Pence Homes team is the top choice for buyers, sellers, and is proud to support you and your home ownership goals. Get started today by calling 612-308-1122 or by emailing info@pencehomes.com. So, friend of the pod, Steve Hartman, earlier says, does TSJ Terrence earn meaningful playoff minutes if he continues to look good? Maybe matchup dependent. Iceberg also added over on YouTube, there's still a bright future for TJ. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I'm throwing out the first half of this game for TJ because, like, he just didn't. He wasn't like the focal point of the offense or really getting much opportunity. If you look at just the second half, though, 18 minutes, 29 points, 1 rebound, 3 assists, just 1 turnover, drew 5 fouls. I mean, that might have been the best game of TJ's career in just one half of basketball.
I would agree. Yeah, I mean, he typically last season he had a couple nice games against Oklahoma City, but I mean, I think not even start to finish, from second half to finish, this was a pretty good one for TJ. I mean, he's playing free. I think there's also an aspect to it. I mean, talk about it with Bones a little bit this year of, when you're not on the floor with Ant and Jaden and like all of these other guys who are going to get theirs, and you have that freedom, that green light in your head, you do tend to play a little bit differently. You tend to think less like a role player, and you kind of go get your own. And TJ, hopefully nobody forgot, the guy was a heck of a college basketball player. Like, when he was at Illinois, he was really, really good. Put up 40 points in the Sweet 16 on one of the best defenses in college basketball. I mean, he can ball. And so, yeah, I mean, this was, I would say, the best game of TJ's career, probably. And I don't think that's really even an unfair statement. Problem is that he wasn't really playing with anybody else that was willing to help him out. And, ultimately, ultimately, like, it didn't really matter because they lost by 15 points. That probably should have been by 30 points. And that stat line looks kind of empty. But no, I mean, TJ looked awesome. I mean, the step back 3 was working. He was getting to the basket. He looked fast. And to your point earlier, what you talked about, looked healthy.
Yeah. I mean, he just looked healthy. Like, the speed that he had today was different than any speed like he had in any of these other stints. Like, I think he's conditioned and healthy for the first time this year, which, like, we talked about it a couple pods back when you were on about just like, is this just like a punt season for TJ? Give him a laundry list in the off season and see what he does like in training camp. I mean, TJ was like being guarded by actual NBA players. Like, Paulo was on him a few times. Desmond Bane was trying to like hedge him at half court. It just didn't matter, which, I mean, that's still the upside for him, right? Like, it didn't fall off just because he's been hurt this year.
No, he's always had it, and he showed a willingness to push pace tonight. I mean, that's ultimately the equalizer that is going to shake you from some of those tougher matchups. Like, he was fast and he grabbed the ball and he was extremely decisive. For TJ, like, ultimately his problem is the same problem that Anthony Edwards, Naz Reid, Jaden, everybody else in this team has. It's like, can you do this every single night? Like, that was the issue at the beginning of the year. It's been the issue every time he's played essentially this spring. And now, like, he comes on when the weather gets nice and he looks like LeBron James. And like, the question is, like, where was this in November? Where was it in December? Obviously he was hurt and he had a long-term injury, and, who knows how healthy he was at the beginning of the season. But, if you can do this with just a stitch of consistency, there's a rotation spot right there for you next year.
Yeah,
It's right there for
absolutely.
you. It was right there for you this year, ultimately. But consistency is the mark on this team. For not just TJ, it's every other person. The problem with TJ is when it's not on, it's 0 points and one of the worst defensive ratings in the league. And when it is on, it's a completely different basketball player. Whereas even as volatile as some of the players on this roster can be, there's just not as much of a variance there for them.
Yeah. And I mean, I should say too, like TJ only had 2 fouls today. Like there was some stuff with TJ where it's like he's not getting back fast enough after like a basket, and it's just irritating, frustrating stuff. But that's like you're also down 30 to the Magic. Like I think it's some of it's just human nature, but yeah, it's consistency with him. Like if he's just able to, maybe not 30 something points every night, but if he's able to just have that burst consistently, you're absolutely right. Next year, I mean, I would assume Kyle isn't getting big minutes next year. I would assume Mike's not getting any minutes next year. Who knows what they'll shake out? There's going to be at least 15 to 20 minutes though for somebody to take. And like TJ makes a lot of sense. Like another dude that's just fast.
A 9-man rotation is right there for Chris Finch if TJ can become consistent. The problem is out of necessity, he had to shrink the rotation this year. And out of necessity, they had to trade for Io DeSumo because TJ just wasn't good enough, frankly. And he wasn't able to share those NA responsibilities with Jalen Clark. Like maybe we thought that was going to be able to happen heading into the year. So the rotation was shrunk out of necessity and a move was made out of necessity. But if TJ can come back healthy and at least be somewhat this version of himself next year, a 9-man rotation is right there. And that's a pretty scary looking bench unit where every single person wants to run the floor. I mean, that's what I think is the most exciting about that.
Yeah, if you have Bones, TJ, Io, and Nas coming off the bench as a just change of pace group, that's
It's a team that
there's going to be a
wants to
lot of
run.
cardio.
Yeah, and that's really hard to defend. I mean, is it a lineup that can rebound? That remains to be seen. Io probably being the best rebounder
Yep.
out of the group. Can they get the ball and run in transition? Maybe. But I mean, man, if they do, it's a very scary group.
The other guy I wanted to talk about before we get out of here is just Johan. Obviously, Rudy gets ruled out. I think my eyes, that's the first thing that went to is like, ooh, we're gonna get like 30 minutes of Johan. Kind of a tale of 3 quarters and then 1 quarter for Johan. First half he played what? Let me bring it up here because it wasn't a ton. 6 minutes. Gets 3 fouls and goes 1 of 5 from the field. Third quarter, he comes in, promptly picks up 2 more fouls, still struggling quite a bit. Did get 4 points in that third quarter. And then the fourth quarter, he just looked awesome. Like the fourth quarter, I don't know what happened. I don't know if they just stopped calling fouls. I think he got away with like 1 on Paulo. That was pretty egregious.
Yeah.
But like, there's something there to be excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing with Johan is the extended minutes that he's got have shown how brilliant he could eventually be at some point in time, and also how far away he is from that as
Yeah.
well. Um, the defending without fouling is a major issue. I know we've talked about this. I don't know if it's been on here or even just at the games, but it's he doesn't defend straight up. He defends
Yeah.
at an angle. Like his hand, he has bad arms when he's defending in the paint. And at the end of the day, too, like Orlando had 64 points in the paint tonight.
Yeah.
Not now that is not all on Johan. That would be very unfair to say that that's all on Johan, but it certainly had a good amount to do with him not being able to defend without fouling and getting yanked out of the game and having to play in foul trouble for a lot of his minutes. So yeah, I mean, like I think the thing with Johan offensively that's the most exciting. I mean, the instincts are clearly there. He just needs to kind of sharpen those a little bit. his off the dribble game has been surprisingly really good. Whether it's been touch near the basket, not like taking J Huff off the dribble
He
yesterday.
can catch.
He can catch. Isn't that amazing?
I'll say it. He can catch the basketball.
Is
It's
is
wild.
isn't that amazing? Like he can finish around the rim. I mean, listen, it's going to have to be a little bit of a little student teacher with Rudy this summer. I think that Rudy has a little bit to learn from Johan as well. But I mean, the tools are clearly there. There's clearly a lot of excitement with Johan, and rightfully so. I mean, he does. He's got a lot of natural, just raw instincts there. His
Yeah.
like sense of space is really good on the floor. I think that probably comes from his experience playing soccer.
Yeah.
Like his ability of like the rhythm of working up the pitch versus like the rhythm of just finding space on the floor and working the dunkers area and finding spots at the nail that he can maybe get an advantageous matchup from. Like that stuff is all there with him. It's just literal fundamentals.
Yeah.
Literal fundamentals. Like how long can he take to maybe hone in on some of those? We'll see. But encouraging, discouraging. I think you got both sides of the coin there.
Absolutely. Kingaby brings up Finch was right about the fouls and that he has a little hook shot mentality. Can you teach an old dog new tricks? And also he is green, but trending in the right direction. Like the thing that I'm like most impressed with him is I go to every Wolves practice, right? So like I'm sitting there sometimes waiting like an hour for whoever's in a cold tub to come talk to the media and answer 6 questions because it's about the principle. If we ask for somebody, we are waiting for that somebody's principle. Anyways, like I'll be sitting there for like an hour, and that entire hour, Johan's doing stuff with Kevin Hansen, and it is like basic pick, like listing into a role, like getting your hips set straight. And then when you do see him play, it's like he's just doing it. Like it's like literally watching him do this on the sideline at practice, and then in a game, it's just like, yeah, he's doing exactly what he's being taught, which I think that's really impressive for a guy that's one up until like midway through the season was still trying to figure out how to speak English like fluently. I think it was Chris Finch. It was either Finch or it was one of the assistants that was talking about it, that like they found out pretty early on that Johan will just kind of like nod and agree and not understand any of it. So then they have to like take him to the side and like get Rudy over there or get Max Lafleur over there to like actually explain it to him, which like love that type of stuff from a guy his age to just be like, yeah, I can do that. Like,
Yeah.
not knowing what he's going to be thrown into. But like the last thing I'd say is like the fouling, I think is alarming because he's not on a game plan yet. There is not tape on him. There is not film on him. Jimmy Butler is not playing in the league right now. Like once he's on a game plan, because he's like in that rotation and the players get their little like notebook or whatever it is for the next game, and it's like Johan jumps at everything, like those fouls are going to increase exponentially because right now he's the unknown.
Then you get into switch hunting territory, right?
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't matter how athletic you are, or how good your shot blocking instincts are, or how good your wings or how crazy your wingspan is. Like if you can't flip your hips and you can't shuffle your feet and you can't get into someone's body at the right time, like you're exactly right, man. Like you're gonna end up on scouting reports. And so yeah, I mean, I hope he's not in the rotation next year. I still think he needs another developmental year. I mean, to your point on what he does at practice, like even with his pregame warmup, like the first like 20 minutes of his pregame warmup are just push shots and finishing around the rim, like contested finishes around the rim too. Like the more that he can kind of sharpen those things up and just learn again, basic defensive technique, like flipping your hips, staying with somebody, getting into the body at the right time. Like those are things that can go a long way. And ultimately, like I said, when they drafted Johan, like he was kind of on the draft board that I had initially written for Canis it's like, I mean, he's 2-3 years out on a playoff team. Like he's not someone who's going to come in and contribute right away. And it's unfair to expect that. Like the calls for Johan to come in the game when Rudy's having a bad game or when Nas is having a bad game, like that's not fair. And it's not fair.
No.
It's not fair to put that expectation on him. So year 3, like I would hope that he's in the rotation, but even next year, like I still think that's pretty far fetched, and would like to see him get a little bit of run in Iowa.
Yeah. I just wonder with the Iowa stuff, because he went down there and just crushed it.
Like, he did. He did
break the league down there.
100%.
And it's like, I do think there's something to being like up here where you're practicing against Rudy and Kyle and Nas and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's like a lot of this skill stuff, you do just need minutes. Like you need to get it on tape. You need to have to be able to watch it back and kind of like see what's going on. And like, you don't get that off the bench. But that being said, like how much can you learn if you're getting 5 fouls in like 13 minutes and then you're just out of the game? Like, yeah. I think that's almost, then you're getting into the Dillingham territory where it's like, are you ruining a dude's confidence? Is he second guessing himself? Like, there's just so much more that goes into it than just like 2K adjusting the rotation sliders.
when it permits, like go down and guard G League guards. Like go down and guard G League wings. Like TJ had a little bit of run in the G League, you know, like there are talented players down there. I mean, I'm not saying like get a lease down in Iowa or anything like that, but when the schedule permits, like go play a few games down there. It's important to get game reps, and it's important to still play against talent. Like there's plenty of talented guards down there that will eventually at some point get NBA time. So, you know, I just like that's going to be a big part with him is like ultimately Johan should be in his best state, the ultimate switchable player, right? Like he should be able to essentially guard. I don't think it's fair to maybe say 1 through 5, but pretty close to 1 through 5. I mean, Rudy can guard 1. I mean,
Rudy's guarding ones right now better than most ones guard ones.
Yeah, like Rudy can guard 1 through 5. So I do think at some point, you know, Johan should ultimately be the ultimate switchability guy. Like he's kind of a switchblade on defense with an emphasis on protecting the rim and shot blocking. And so being able to give him those reps early on is going to be pretty important with the idea that he can maybe contribute in year 3. But I don't want to dampen the conversation at all. Like there are plenty of bright spots from him that he can build on heading into the offseason and into next year. Like he flashed plenty.
Johan Summer League this year is going to be must watch. I'll be down there again, so I am going to be locked in on those games. I mean, the other thing is like this Wolves team doesn't do young players like a really good service either. Like if you're up by 20 against some of these teams that are bad and you can have faith that you're not going to like blow the lead, like Johan probably plays an extra 100 minutes this season, or people or even like Rob probably plays more, but like this team just kind of trips over themselves and then they end up having to fight for a 6 seed and do everything that we've seen this year. Maybe next year that changes depending on how the playoff goes, depending on roster adjustments. Like maybe we live in a world next year where the Wolves have a 25-point lead with 8 minutes left and Finch feels comfortable throwing in the young guys because he knows that the lead isn't going to evaporate, which wasn't the case this year.
And I think it does say a lot that obviously it had been out of necessity, but that Johan has gotten NBA run in his rookie season. I mean, that doesn't really happen all the time. And that Finch trusts him enough to give him extended run when they're down a couple players. I mean, like ultimately you're like, look at Chicago right now. Leonard Miller has had good games. Leonard Miller, I'm sorry. Like, I think Leonard was a really nice guy. Like when he was here, I don't think he's a good NBA player. Dude. I don't think he's a good NBA player. I don't. But he's had good NBA games in Chicago. Rob just had 26 points the other night. Like when you're not a very good team and you can afford to give young players who may not be as good run, like they're going to have good games. They're NBA players. I mean, look what happened when the Wolves did that a long time ago. Like they had plenty of young players have good games. Jarrett Culver had good games every now and again.
Leonard Miller is their Trevion Graham.
And you could say Mo Williams, but I mean Leonard hasn't scored 52 yet, so that's unfair to put on Lenny.
Uh,
But that's what happens when you're not a very good team. And on the flip side of that is when you do end up getting good, some of those players end up falling by the wayside. So you kind of have to find that competitive balance. And if that's something that Johan is going to be a part of, like, I would say a very good sign of that is him playing meaningful minutes in his rookie season. Had a great game in Milwaukee, had good minutes last night in Indiana. He's had good spots, throughout, like sprinkled throughout the season. I think that's plenty good to see right now. And you just look to build on that in the following years, and we'll see. I mean, I would imagine that he'll probably get some opportunities next year.
Yeah. Pack mentality says trips, no more like falls off a cliff. I was calling it vomiting all over themselves earlier this year, and I started to go to trips, but that was kind of how I described it, as they just vomit all over themselves. Pack mentality also asks, how's Johan's English? It's fine. Like, we don't get to talk to him a ton because he's not playing a ton, but the few times this year, like since the new year that I've been able to talk to him, like it's fine. Like, he's if you've ever had like a foreign exchange student or something like that, like you do have to speak a little slower, and every once in a while he'll be like, can you reword that or something? Like, I think where it gets difficult is when you're on an NBA court and Anthony Edwards is screaming at you in his Atlanta accent and the crowd is like deafening. Like, it's just, there's a difference between like being able to talk and understand English and like in that situation being able to understand it, which I think that's more where, like, when the team or when Finch has said it, or even like when Jaden said it a couple weeks ago, like that's more the context of it, is just like it's going to take them a little bit to be able to like figure out different accents. Just like it's different talking like Spanish from somebody from Spain versus Argentina, right? Like it's different, which that's my high horse. But
yeah. Well, I don't think yes sir ski is in textbooks. So
no, probably not. Nor is when Ant starts talking really fast and it's just like I have no idea what you just said. That might be because I'm a decade older than him, but more than that, a decade and a half older than him. But like, man, there are some times where he'll say something and I have to like listen back to my recording 6 times because it's like, I don't understand what happened. Andrew, we're almost at 50 minutes. Where can people find you? Anything coming out on Canis in the near future? Floor is yours, man.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on again. These are always a blast. I think this is the 4th one this season, and they're always a ton of fun.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, they're great, and it's a fun chat room too. I like it. It's a good mix of opinions. You find me on Twitter.
We all agreed it would be boring.
Right, exactly. This isn't a kumbaya. You find me on Twitter at Andrew_Carlson2. I'm writing at Canis Hoopus. I'll have a lot of stuff coming out around the playoffs. I might have a season recap here coming within the next week. We'll see about that, but we'll be all over the playoffs, and I'll be all over playoffs as well, and probably at a lot of those games. So excited for it, man. It's another playoff run, and we can't take those for granted.
No, we can't. Anyone who tuned into this a little bit late, it does get posted up on YouTube and on X as soon as we end stream. Godfrey says Nas Reed 25 million a year is too much. Probably. I'm not gonna like disagree with you, but also like it's the modern NBA. Like, everyone gets overpaid, I feel like. Anyways, back on topic. This does come out as a podcast. That was a weird way to say it. A podcast tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. I will be back doing a post game after the Houston game, and I might be doing another Lynx live stream if news drops before Saturday. But if not, I plan to kind of do like a Bill Simmons-esque Lynx like 2-hour live stream for the opening of free agency when everyone in the league gets signed in an hour. So you can catch me on that as well. Thanks everyone for listening. Appreciate y'all.